Today, on episode 53 of Rail Talk, we welcome Mark Casse, the hottest trainer in America, to talk all things HISA, Saratoga, etc., etc. I'm Joe Bianca. I'm an ownership advisor at West Point Thoroughbreds. And John, I was down in your neck of the woods for the Haskell over the weekend, and it was a great crowd. Usually when I see that many people excited wearing red hats, I get a little nervous. But this time, it was all good vibes down at Monmouth Park.
Hey, that's good to hear, Joe. Jonathan Green, general manager of DJ Stable. I thought I recognized you in a crowd of 40,000 people. Most of them were lined up to get your autograph, right?
It's true. And I was too busy getting those free margaritas to sign anybody's anything. So, start the show. So, Haskell Day at Monmouth was a huge success. They got over 38,000 people there, which I think was the largest crowd they've gotten since American Pharoah. I can't explain it, why that happened. There's like no Triple Crown winner or anything. And maybe the people were just so happy it wasn't 110 degrees that they all flocked in droves down to the shore. So it was a great day. It was a great day for Mark Casse. We're going to talk to Mark in a little bit. Got the hottest barn in America right now. He won 7 races on Saturday, including 3 stakes. But obviously the headliner of the day is Dornoch, who went wire to wire in the Haskell. Very similar layout and very similar outcome from the Belmont, and Mindframe basically coming up to him in mid-stretch. They're a little further apart this time, I think, but basically Mindframe looking like he's going to run right on by Dornoch, and Dornoch said, "Nah, I don't think so, dude. You might have the talent. I got the guts." And that to me is the biggest takeaway from this Triple Crown season, is that we underestimated the hell out of Dornoch. Mm-hmm. And we said it when he won the Fountain of Youth over a couple of tomato cans only by a length and a half. Then he got drubbed in the Bluegrass, didn't run well in the Derby. But Danny Gargan never lost faith in that horse along the way, kept putting him in big spots, and now he's rewarded him 2 times in a row, winning the Belmont and the Haskell. And he just has the moxie, I think, to turn back horses, which is something you really need, especially in a 3-year-old division that is pretty evenly matched right now. He's the leader, but the fact that he's now won a dogfight with arguably, pound for pound more talented horse twice in a row, and Mindframe has kind of blown it twice in a row, I think is significant. And he's going to take some beating now, especially if he runs big in the Travers. Like, it might be lights out for the 3-year-olds.
And Joe, it's interesting you bring up the word confidence, because I would certainly use that adjective for both groups, whether it was Danny Gargan himself about Dornoch or if it was Mike Rapoli about Mindframe. They both came in pretty freaking confident that their horses were going to run well, so much so that like Mike even brought literally a camera crew with him to watch him the whole day. I think they had very high expectations for Mindframe. And I agree with your sentiment. Mindframe is the better, more talented horse. But there's a difference between talent and winning. And sometimes the difference comes down to, post position, which certainly Dornoch, having the 1 hole and basically staying on the rail the entire time made a huge difference, where Mindframe had to go around some horses. But also heart. And as Joe, as you always saying, you got to have heart. And that certainly is what Dornoch has. He's got heart, he's got the moxie, he's got the gonads to be able to do things. And in watching Mindframe, who again I think is the more talented horse in my opinion, I don't know if Mindframe shied away from the crowd noise or was just because he's so inexperienced. It was only his 4th start of his career versus Dornoch's 9th start, and that makes a huge difference at this stage of the game. To me, it's like when you watch babies run, and some of them have run once and some of them have never run before. The horses that have run once have a significant advantage. And I think the same thing holds true here, where Dornoch 9th start versus Mindframe 4th start, it made a huge difference for them. If Mindframe wasn't so royally bred and, twice finished second in separate grade 1s, if I was the owner, I may say to the trainer, is this the kind of horse that either we need to put cotton in his ears, or more drastic, maybe geld, because he's not focused enough? Obviously, you wouldn't do the latter with Mindframe at this point. But certainly, from a pound for pound talent, I give the edge to one horse. But from his record, Dornoch has now won 2 grade 2s and 2 grade 1s, and is looking like the prohibitive favorite for 3-year-old colt of the year. I would have an argument with you that maybe Thorpedo Anna, maybe with her, what was it, her third Grade 1 win of the year, that she may be atop the overall 3-year-old group as a class.
Yeah, well, let's get into that. There's a couple other races from Monmouth that we can touch on, but the other star of the weekend was undoubtedly Thorpedo Anna, crushing them in the Coaching Club American Oaks. Now, it was a pretty weak field. Candide's okay, but otherwise those are pretty much allowance fillies. And I was so impressed visually by her. She only got a 95 Beyer, so that kind of throws into a little bit of doubt into the question of whether or not she really does stack up with the top 3-year-olds, because Dornoch got a 103, even Unmatched Wisdom, who won the Curlin on Friday, got a 99. So it's just, it's not one of these situations where you're going to have this filly come in and be, 2-1 or 5-2.
Right.
She's going to be a legitimate 5 or 6-1 shot, I think, in the Travers. Nevertheless,
if she runs, right? She hasn't announced that they're running.
If she runs, okay. Yeah, it's not guaranteed yet, but I think it sounds like that's the way Kenny McPeak is leaning. And he what I love about him is he defaults to the ballsier option.
Yeah.
He says, I'm going to take a shot rather than not. But just visually, the way she ran that race was so impressive because she missed the break. Mm-hmm. She was like off a length or two slow. And John, I've been watching racing a long time. You've been watching it even longer. I don't know that I've ever seen a horse on dirt, at least, break slowly and be up on the leader's flank so quickly. Mm-hmm. Like in a matter of strides, the way that she did. Like, she broke slow, and then 2-3 strides later, she's right up on the engine and pressing the front runner. And just to have that kind of acceleration when you're going from a complete stop. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no running start. She opens the gates, walks out, and then boom, boom, she's right there on the front. And that won her the race. She didn't get in trouble. She put herself in a great spot. Seems like the kind of filly that you just got to point in the right direction. And she was just having fun in the stretch. She was flicking her ears back and forth and was just so much the best that she's an absolute joy to watch. And to me, John, it's going to take, we still have a lot of racing left. To me, she's the leader for Horse of the Year, and it's not particularly close. She's got 3 Grade 1s now. All of them were blowout wins. Obviously, they're age restricted, so she's going to have to face older fillies, at least in the distaff. Mm-hmm. But who else do you really have? Like, I love Next, mm-hmm. but he doesn't have a Grade 1 win. Dornoch's got the 2 Grade 1 wins, but that's 2 is last time I checked is less than 3. And I just think Thorpedo Anna she's just got it. And it's going to be, that's the question. We're not to run her in the Travers. How important is Horse of the Year to Kenny McPeak? Because if he goes and crushes them in the Alabama, she gets a 4th Grade 1 and then maybe picks up 1 more in the fall, she's going to be Horse of the Year. Mm-hmm. But if she runs 5th or 6th in the Travers, that opens up the field a little bit. Right. John, what's your take?
It's a feel-good story, Joe, certainly with Thorpedo Anna. She was a modestly purchased, yearling.
Basic grad.
And a phasic grad, of course.
Show them the logo.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you can't. I'm going the wrong way.
There we go.
And
good boy.
And thank you. But no, she's a great story. She's was modestly bred. A $40,000 yearling purchase. Again, Kenny McPeak shows time and time again that with a relatively modest budget, he can go in and find athletes. It's one of his calling cards that he's had over the years. And he actually relishes in. I think he enjoys. He would rather spend. He even said it on our show. He'd rather spend $40,000 or $50,000 on a horse than $250,000 on a horse, because he feels like that there's less pressure and he likes having the underdog. And he's done things unconventionally, like you mentioned. He's run fillies against the boys. He's run horses further than maybe they show that they can do it. And more times than not, he's been proven correct. He has a good instinct about the horses that are under his campaigning. I think that if they kept Thorpedo Anna just in her own division, and she continued to do what she's doing, yeah, she would definitely be on the finalist ballots for Horse of the Year and maybe win it. I think there's a lot of races between now and the Breeders' Cup that are going to help mold and shape the divisional leaders going forward. But at this point in time, Joe, I think that she definitely is at least the top 3-year-old. I haven't done enough research yet to be able to anoint her the Horse of the Year, but man, she's a great story. I don't want to compare it to the story of Cody's Wish, because that was a whole different story, altogether. But she's like gaining fame almost like Flightline did, where, people were coming out to see Flightline run and win, and people are coming out to see Thorpedo Anna come out and win, and there's a rooting interest, and it's a feel-good story. And I think that does, we're human beings. That does sway people's votes. The emotion sometimes dictates who they're going to vote for when it comes to eclipse season.
Yeah, no doubt. And another filly that I think is pretty clearly the leader in the division for the Eclipse right now is Idiomatic.
Yeah.
That was, to me, that was the race of the day. Just how exciting of a battle that was between her and Soul of an Angel. I saw some people being critical of Florent Geroux in the race, that she was lone speed and he kind of did not be as aggressive with her as he probably should have. And I thought that was the same thing that he did in the previous race when she lost in the Ogden Phipps. She broke a little bit slowly, but she still could have had that lead at any possible point in that race. And eventually she just got out-knotted by Randomized. So I do think she would benefit from a little bit of a more aggressive ride. But credit to Irad Ortiz Jr. because he took it to her on the turn.
Yep.
He made what normally would be an early move, but he was like, hey, listen, I'm on the only horse in the race that could conceivably beat her. I got to go now, whether it's like the 3/8 pole or mid-turn or whatever it was. And it did not look like Idiomatic was going to win that race until like the final handful of strides where she just stuck her nose back out and got it done. We said it after the race, John, she's got the heart of a champion.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what the speed figure is. She is going to show up and do everything she possibly can to win the race, no matter what the circumstances. And she's just an absolute joy to have racing. We talked about it before. Thank God she's a Juddmonte horse because a lot of other horses would have been retired by now, and we still get to watch her do her thing. She did get a 97 buyer figure. But yeah, this is horses like her are why we love racing and why we love especially top class racing, because it's not just about the talent. It's what do they have inside? What is the competitive spirit like? And for her, it's a 10 out of 10. Right. And she's the queen right now.
Well, and like you said, Joe, this is a gift to racing. And we've said it time and time again that, after her Breeders' Cup Distaff win, 90% of the industry would have retired her and started producing babies out of her and getting commercial foals. And I mean, she's a Curlin out of lockdown. It's like one of the Juddmonte family of families that they own. And they would have had every right to retire her at that point and say, she's a champion. There's nothing else for her to prove. We're going to start her next career and start cashing in on some of these babies. But they didn't. They announced after the Breeders' Cup they were bringing her back, so it wasn't even like it was a surprise. And this is only her third race back. And granted, it was a grade 3, so you discount it a little bit. But there just aren't a lot of older mares that want to run against Idiomatic at this point. So whether it's a grade 3 or a grade 1 or anywhere in between, it almost doesn't matter. I think that when we watch this filly run, we have to watch it with the idea that this is something that's unique in this day and age of our industry, that there's an older mare who is continuing to add to her resume, her very illustrious career. And I think every race that she runs, and she runs well, we should take it as a gift from the racing gods. And she fought back and had the heart of a champion like I haven't seen in a while. She had every right to spit it and not run well and finish a well-deserved second. And it would have been back-to-back seconds in her career, but she didn't. She fought back and put the other horse away. And that is something that's unusual. And Joe, we've talked about it before. It's very difficult, especially with fillies. It's very difficult to get them after they come off a hard, race year, to get them back and have them, because they have a biological clock too. And I know a lot of people don't think of it that way, but they really do. And we've seen it with a lot of fillies that were champions that tried to come back the following year and just didn't have it again, and didn't want to again. And this filly wants to win. And it's the kind of horse that I find myself rooting for, even though it's the top people in the industry. It's Juddmonte, it's Brad Cox, it's like the biggest 800-pound gorillas in the industry. But I root for this filly because that's what I want all of my horses to aspire to be, is to just whatever level they're at, just to try their hardest and fight back and want to hit the wire first.
Yeah, no, and just because I know there's gonna be some sticklers out there, she's a mare. She's a 5-year-old mare, which I said filly too. So I just want to put that out there before for all the nerds start yelling at us that she's not technically a filly. But yeah, like this is another thing that people will probably yell at me about. But I think she wins a couple more grade ones. She's got a decent Hall of Fame case. She's 11 for 15 now in her career. She's a 4-time grade 1 winner. She should have won the Ogden Fib. Should be a 5-time grade 1 winner, 7-time graded stakes winner. She wins 2 or 3 more grade ones. I think she's got a solid case for the Hall of Fame. Even if she's not, she doesn't run these like 110, 115 buyer figures. She doesn't like blow you away with her speed numbers. Just in terms of accomplishment, she's knocking on the door if she gets a couple more this year. Rail Talk is sponsored by Facing Tipton, as you can see by John's stylish polo. Thank you to Anna Sites for the swag. I'm not wearing mine now, but I will be wearing it when we get up there to Saratoga because the Facing Select yearling sale is right around the corner. We're less than 2 weeks away as we're recording this, August 5th and 6th. It's going to be a star-studded event, as it always is. But before that, we had another successful digital sale over the past week at Facing. The Facing July digital sale closed this past Tuesday with 161 horses sold for over $4.29 million. Catalog had 2-year-olds, horses of racing age, breeding stock, including mares who had foals at their foot, weanlings, yearlings, and a stallion prospect. Nadette, who was offered as a racing broodmare prospect, sold for $420,000 to top the sale to Step Aside Farm from the Team Valor consignment. 5-year-old daughter of Outstrip. She sold from her stall at at Colonial Downs. John, this is something we're always saying. Like, you literally don't have to move the horse one bit to sell these horses at the digital sales. She won the Beverly D preview last week, or maybe it was a week and a half ago, by 4 3/4 lengths. So she's probably going to be in the Beverly D, which is also a win in your in qualifier for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. So you buy a horse online, you could have a Breeders' Cup starter in a couple of months. And whoever has not gotten the memo yet, hear me now and hear me good. These basic digital sales provide tons of great opportunities for quick turnarounds and horses who can compete in big races without having to disrupt their training schedule. It really is the wave of the future, and FASIC is ahead of the market, I think, by doing these every month. So there will be another one in August. And then, of course, like I said, we got the Select sale and the New York Bred sale. The New York Bred sale, don't forget about that, is August 11th and 12th, follows up quickly after the Saratoga sale. And then the next digital sale is August 22nd through the 27th. So you can nominate for that digital sale. Entries close August 14th. And if you're not participating, both as a buyer and a seller, you're missing out. So at long last, it seems like the stars are aligning. We can finally close the book on the Churchill Downs and Bob Baffert beef that stemmed from the 2021 positive for Medina Spirit in the Kentucky Derby. John, both parties released statements over the weekend. Very lawyer-friendly statements, I would say. Why don't you tell the people what Bob Baffert and Churchill Downs both said?
Well, and basically, I'll read them verbatim, and then we can kind of pick them apart, Joe. But I agree. I think it was a situation where the attorneys got involved and basically said, here's what we want you to say. No, come back, be softer on this. This is what we want you to, this is what we're willing to say. No, we want to. And basically, they kind of came to a meeting of the minds because simultaneously, both statements were sent out, and also I think the next day the lawsuit that Zidane Racing Stables was involved with was he immediately pulled it. So I think that was a very coordinated effort on all the parties that be to basically say we're closing this chapter on this situation, and basically, you can, if you admit to a little bit, we'll yield a little bit, and we'll all kind of meet in the middle. And 3+ years later, they finally have come to an agreement. So, Joe, let me read first what came from the Baffert camp. That is actually pinned to his Twitter feed as we speak. This is from Bob Baffert. I accept responsibility for Medina Spirit's positive test in the 2021 Kentucky Derby. I am responsible for any substance found in the horses that I train, and I've paid a very steep price with a 3-year suspension and the disqualification of Medina Spirit's performance. I understand and appreciate that Churchill Downs and the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission took steps to enforce the rules that they believed were necessary to protect the safety and integrity of horse racing and the reputation of the Kentucky Derby. My family and I want to put this behind us and get back to doing what we love to do without any more distraction or negativity. I very much look forward to returning to Churchill Downs and getting back to the winner's circle. Now, I would have to say, Joe, is it okay if I just continue to kind of mine it? Okay.
Keep rolling.
So with regard to the statement, again, it was very measured. It was very, lawyerese and basically saying that, whereas Baffert said, I take responsibility for Medina Spirit's positive test. He is not saying I did something that basically made the horse test positive. He's just saying I take responsibility for the positive test. Okay, so that's number one. And he's also saying that, I am responsible for any substance found in the horses that I train, which I'm sure Churchill Downs said you have to say, because in accordance with, the rules and regulations, you are the responsible party. Anything that goes on in your camp, in your barn, ultimately falls at your feet. So I think that was a very important statement that was mandated, I'm guessing, but was mandated to be in the statement. And I love the fact that he then said, I understand and appreciate Churchill Downs and the commission took steps to enforce rules that they believe were necessary. So basically saying, even if I did something and ultimately I'm the responsible person, it's your rules that I don't necessarily, agree with in this case. And then the nice sentiment, my family and I want to just put this forward without having to basically saying like, hey, can we all just ignore what I've done in the past and just kind of move forward and look forward accordingly. So do I think that he's accepting responsibility? Absolutely. Do I think that he's being, again, not getting into his head? Do I feel like that Bob Baffert is basically being contrite in saying I'm coming hat in hand and I made these mistakes? No, I think that basically they basically made him say what he needed to say, and he was willing to admit without additional guilt or association with what happened with Medina Spirit. He still is not saying anything about why the horse died or who's responsible for that. But we'll never get to the bottom of it. I guess basically this is finally, after 3 years, this is what all the parties that are involved are willing to accept and willing to admit. And now we can kind of turn the page and move forward. And again, just ignore what happened, previously.
So let's read the Churchill statement. It says this is from Bill Carstangen, and Churchill Downs has lifted his suspension. So Baffert is eligible to return at the 2025 Kentucky Derby. He says, we're satisfied that Mr. Baffert has taken responsibility for his actions, completed a substantial penalty, is committed to running in full compliance with the rules and regulations going forward. All parties agree that it's time to bring this chapter to a close and focus on the future. Mr. Baffert is welcome to return at any of CDI's racetracks, including our flagship Churchill Downs racetrack, and we wish him and his connections good luck in their future competitive endeavors. I don't want to spend too much time on this because everything that could possibly conceivably be said about Bob Baffert and Churchill Downs has already been said, probably by us at some point. but it just, to me, my takeaway is it just proves once and for all how petty and short-sighted Bob was being from the jump, and then how petty Churchill Downs was being a little bit further down the line. Like, I'm glad you
get it both, Joe, because I think they both were getting petty. Yeah.
No, for sure. But it started like if Bob had just done this 3 years ago, he didn't even have to get up there and say anything. He just put out a lawyer-approved statement, taking quasi-responsibility. As soon as the positive was confirmed, like none of this would have happened, I don't think.
Right.
We could have avoided 3 years of ugliness, pettiness, controversy, and a lot of stories that were about the Kentucky Derby that led with why a certain trainer wasn't there, and not about the horses and the trainers and the horsemen who were there. And so I do agree with Bob in one aspect. Like, it is time to close this chapter, to let Bob run his horses at Churchill and move forward with the Derby in a spirit of unity and celebration, which is what the Derby should be about. It's just it's a shame that it took 3 years for everyone to put on their big boy pants and make nice. That's my takeaway.
Yeah. And Joe, I think it took 3 years because it took that long for everything to play out in the court system, quite frankly. It was like one team was fighting it. The other team had to countersue. A third party came in and countersued that suit. And basically, once everything was exhausted from a legal standpoint, Then I think the parties said, okay, well, now we can get together. Now that basically I'm going to have to accept some of this responsibility. And both parties had to say that. Both parties, we talked about how, we felt that Churchill Downs was enough. Like after a couple of years, they basically set the goalposts and said, you have a 2-year suspension, and then move the goalposts once that 2 years, was up. So it was definitely starting to get into a serious pissing match. And less with the facts of the matter, and more like, well, you hurt my feelings. Well, you embarrassed me. So now we're going to continue to have this feud. So I'm glad that I won't even say the cooler heads prevailed. Basically, it had to go through this exhaustive legal process before they could even get to the table and get this down. Now, if you remember when we interviewed Mike Tirico, one of the things that we talked about in that interview was the fact that NBC Sports really didn't mention Baffert during this year's Derby, and what a breath of fresh air it was about the fact that they didn't have to mention who wasn't there. They could they pretty much only focused on the horses who did show up and the parties that did show up. And I think even Mike said, I don't want to paraphrase for him, but I think his sentiment was like, yeah, it was nice. It was a nice breath of fresh air that we got to talk about what the stories were, not what the stories could have been.
No, totally. And it's again, it just feels like a lot of wasted time and a lot of wasted acrimony. And I'm glad that we're going to be able to turn the page and move forward and just, have the Derby be about the horses and about the pageantry and the spectacle that it is, because it was a drag having to I did some TV spots go on, and the first question I got asked is about Bob Baffert.
Right.
And I'm sure I was not alone on that. And everyone just kind of wanted to focus on the horses.
Usually the first question that I get on shows is, what's Joe Bianca really like? That's the one. Exactly. So you have,
do you really know? Do you really know Joe?
Yeah, exactly. Is that pillowcase you're selling on eBay really? Did he really sleep on that? It's amazing. The questions I get about the budding star that I have in my partner Joe Bianca.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You got free margaritas at on Haskell Day, for God's sake. I don't know. I don't know how many other people did that.
Yeah, no, they want me to come back. That's definitely obvious in the way I was treated down at Monmouth Park. Rail Talk is sponsored by the Green Group. It was great to see the patriarch of the Green Group, Len Green, at Haskell at the Haskell Day at Monmouth on Saturday. Great to sit in the box with John and Len and the rest of the team. Really enjoy a great day of racing. The Green Group is the #1 accounting firm in the horse business. The CPA firm knows the horse industry like they do, because Len's got over 200 horses with DJ Stable, won over 2,500 races. They've got close to 1,000 clients in the horse business because they make them money and save them taxes. Complimentary offer for listeners of Rail Talk, exclusive offer for you beautiful listeners out there. He's got a complimentary confidential half-hour consultation in it for you. Call him up at, what's that number again, Michael?
732-634-5100. Green Group.
Man, what a banger. That is such wow. Billboard Hot 100 level musical genius by Michael, and I'm only slightly kidding. Shout out to Michael Agresta. So hit him up at 732-634-5100, greenco.com. Don't take it from me. Take it from another satisfied customer of the Green Group, Bill Betts.
I used to have an accountant here in Lexington, and he retired. And I'd heard about Len and his involvement in the horses, and somehow we got together and talked and hit it off. And we've been partners on a lot of mares and a lot of activities in addition to his work, doing his work as our accountant. His knowledge of this specific industry is, it's unique, and it has situations in it that if you don't have experience, it's hard for you to understand. And Len's been in it for so long, and it's just seen all sides of it that, he brings in expertise to this that you just can't find with most people.
Thank you, Bill. So once again, Len unequivocally guarantees he'll find you value and savings. Hit him up at 732-634. So this is why I need Michael. 732-634-5100, or go to greenco.com. Len and the Green Group will take excellent care of you. So we're so thrilled to welcome back to the Rail Talk studio, not at his beautiful farm this time, but this will have to do, from his RV, the hottest trainer in America right now, Mark Casse. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Always always a pleasure to have you. And I should say the hottest trainer in North America, because there was a lot of success north of the border as well. Saturday was a huge day for your barn. 7 wins, 3 stakes. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you had 5 stakes wins in total over the weekend. I always wonder about this. Like, did you feel like the barn was going to be rolling like this? Did you feel like you had a lot of big shots going into the Saratoga meet, or has it even surprised you?
We won 4 stakes Saturday, but so you're one off. But
5 over the weekend. You won 13 races over the weekend, 5 stakes, 3 of them were graded.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a resume.
We'll have our fact checkers.
To answer your question, sometimes when you look at the condition book, you're looking at and you're like, oh, things don't really work out well for me. When I looked at the first 10 days at the Saratoga meet, I felt like we were going to be very strong. I thought I had some horses in spots that you never know about winning, but I knew we would run well.
And Mark, one of the things that you're winning, not only stake races like we mentioned and graded stake races, but your babies are running and winning everywhere. Saratoga, Florida, Colonial, Ellis. What's the game plan? You're a chess player. What's the game plan when you sit there and you have all the babies at the farm and you're trying to dole out where each one of them is going to go?
Well, we this was an exceptional year. The yearling, we got, I thought, one of the best group of bunch of yearlings we ever got, and we were ready early. We tweaked a few little things, and I felt like we were ready a little earlier. And it's key. If you go back, I'll just give reference to 2 horses, one Classic Empire and the other Wonder Wheel, both Breeders' Cup winners. They both started their careers in May. So I think it's important. I like getting races and horses. A lot of times, John, I decide, by where they're foaled. If they're Florida breds, they go to South Florida. Obviously, Canadian breds go to Canada. New York breds will go to New York. So we do have a lot of Kentucky breds. So we were a lot more active this spring in Kentucky than we have been, and I think that'll continue. Purses are great there. Of course, it's extremely difficult there. That's, to me, the toughest racing in North America. So that helps, but you got to be able to recruit, and to recruit, you have to have a lot of great owners that allow you to go out and find these young horses, and then, act upon it and get them running. And I'm very proud of the team we have. We've spoke before. We have, I want to say, 10 people that have been with me over 30 years. I'm very proud of our training center, and it works. But you got to have the athletes. If you don't have the athletes, it doesn't matter how good you do.
Yeah. I mean, one of the athletes in particular that a lot of people have interest in, both of the guys on this screen with you in particular, is Sandman. $1.2 million OBS March by. He's run once so far, showed some good speed, and then backed up a little bit in the stretch. He's nearing his second race. Just give the audience a quick update on how Sandman's doing.
Sandman, of course, we bought him out of the 2-year-old March sale, I believe it was. And he had only galloped. But I got him, he was training, and everything I asked of him, he did it. Boom, boom, boom. Probably too easy. So we ran him first time out. We were pretty confident, and somebody looked him in the eye and ran. They ran a half, and I believe 45-1. And he's like, wait a second, I've never done that before. And so he backed up a little bit, probably ran a little green. Interesting. I watched him train this morning, and Jose Ortiz was next to me. He goes, "There's Sandman." So everybody, because he's beautiful, and he goes, He goes, "I think I messed up," and I said, "I wasn't going to mention it, but he hooked into a good horse of Dale Roman's that Dale's very high on." I don't get too excited about all that. I was fortunate when I was in my 20s to spend a lot of time with Alan Jerkins, and he would always say to me, I don't know how he said, I need a horse to run 5 times before I make a determination of how they are. And I've trained multiple grade 1 winners that took 5 and 6 times to break their maiden. I didn't like the way he ran. That's not me to show speed and stop. He will not do that again in his next start. He's going to learn to settle and hopefully, come with a run. So I still have, high expectations for Sandman.
Well, and that's one of the things that people remark to me all the time, Mark, about your training is, you have these babies that are winning so early on in their career, but that's not that's not your goal. Your goal isn't to have them like a Wesley Ward or other trainers where they're on the engine from the word go, and they're just going to run as far and fast as they can. I remember you telling me once that for a first time starter, you'd rather have a horse that finishes a closing fourth than a fading third. And that's always resonated with me. Explain that to the audience.
I tell my riders, whether it's Irad Ortiz, Tyler Gaffleone, all those guys, they all ride for me. They know. I always tell them I'd rather be a closing fourth than a dying third. I want my horses to learn to run by horses. My friend Aaron Yagoda says Mark doesn't train for a race. He trains for a career. And that's true. I don't get all excited about all that. And does it hurt my win percentage? Yeah, probably, but who cares? It's more, getting ready and trying to build careers. And I think you saw that on this weekend. Right now, I think, we won somewhere like 120 races this year, and 33 of them are stakes. So,
wow.
Yeah, I think Chad is the only one that is in front of us. So I'm extremely proud of that. And that is from, a lot of good owners, a lot of good people on our team, and, but planning and getting these horses to have careers, Get Smokins, I think 8 now. The winner of the United Nations. Very proud of him. There's a horse that shows you all about our team. We won the Turf Cup last year, and we got him out to California. He wasn't right, and I wasn't happy with the way he was moving, and we ended up not running in the Breeders' Cup. We sent him home. He had both ankles operated on, both front ankles. We rehabbed him there at the farm, brought him back, and instead, even though he's a turf horse and everything, I sent him to Woodbine, and I sent him to Woodbine for a purpose, and that was I felt like the Tapeta at Woodbine would be more kind to him coming back. And so all his training, all his breezings pretty well was there. We ran him one time on Tapeta, and boom, he wins the United Nation in only his second start in 7 months after double ankle surgery.
Amazing.
So that's and you both have been to our place in Ocala, and that is the key. Then we have a lot of, I sit there and I'm kind of air traffic control. I look at all the airplanes and figure out where's the best place for them to fly and earn money. And then we do, we go from there.
Yeah, no doubt. And that kind of leads me into another question about, you mentioned Woodbine and the Tapeta. NYRA recently announced that they're going to be doing synthetic tracks only all winter once Belmont reopens and they have that synthetic track up and running. There was some outcry from the local horsemen who have dirt horses who are a little frustrated with that. On the flip side, one of your contemporaries up in Woodbine, Kevin Attard, was talking about sending some horses down to New York now for the winter as opposed to shipping them all the way to Florida. I assume you thought about this. Where are you at? What, do you think that you might have a string in New York in the winter once they open that synthetic track?
Oh, definitely. Yep. It being there, what I'll do is I'll send my synthetic horses there. We'll send our turf horses to South Florida. If it comes off the grass, we get to run on the synthetic as well. I'm sure Kevin will have horses there. Marty Drexler will have horses there. Bill Thronis. Those guys are big players in Canada. They have a lot of synthetic horses. I'm sure they'll end up in New York. I was having a conversation today. I guess there was a horseman's meeting yesterday, and somebody stood up and was talking about they're worried about they understand that there's a lot more soft tissue injuries, which is a crock of, I don't, it's just
You
not
can say
true.
shit.
We can say shit on the show.
It's not
all right.
true. It's just not true. I think, Joe, that I don't think, I'm certain that there's nobody in the world that's trained more dirt horses and synthetic horses than me. It's just not true. In fact, my soft tissue horses go to Toronto because it's easier on them. Just think about it. You have a tendon or you have a tendon. Well, all of you guys have walked on the beach. Walk on the beach. You walk in the loose sand. Your calves get sore. Your shins get sore because it pulls on you. But you walk down near the water, much easier to walk. That's what synthetic is. You bounce over it, and it's much. I'm kind of. I get bowed horses from all over. They come to me, and the reason they come to me is because I get them. I have a great success with getting them back, and a lot of it has to do with the synthetic. I understand a lot of the breeders are concerned with that, and I understand their concerns. But the truth is, you're going to get more starts out of your horses. Are there going to be some that are not going to like synthetic me just quite, as much as dirt, maybe? But there are going to be a lot more horses that like synthetic than like dirt. Good example, I think we would all agree, one of the best dirt sires in the world is Curling. I have a filly called Solo Album who won the grade 3 on Saturday on the Thorpedo. She cannot run a lick on the dirt. She doesn't care much for grass, but she is a synthetic running fool. So, that's just one. Give me other sires. Quality Road. I've had a lot of good quality roads. I don't really know of sire that I've ever thought that, oh, they just hate dirt. So
Right.
the breeders are scared because of the unknown. That's just not going to happen. The horses will be just fine.
And one of the things that we mentioned last week on the show, Mark, was the additional surface. You can look at it as it's giving these horses an additional opportunity to prove their value. You mentioned Solo Album, and there's probably countless others that just scramble when they run on the dirt, but really like the firm surface of the Thorpedo. And I would think that it would elongate careers, or give horses additional opportunity to prove themselves, through the synthetic. So I think you're right. People are always concerned about the unknown, but couldn't you flip the script and look at it as, now, if your horse fails on the dirt and fails on the turf, you at least have one more opportunity to see if it can succeed?
Yeah, and you know what, John? I could probably, if I went over my list of horses over the last, 5 years or 8 years, I could come up with 100 horses that showed absolutely nothing on the dirt. And you get them on the synthetic, and it's like, until you really are involved in it closely, you just can't believe the difference.
Right.
Mr. Oxley, John Oxley, who I've trained for years, he's like, Mark, it's amazing. Because we would say, I don't know how many times we would have horses say at Churchill or it used to be Gulfstream. And I'm like, I just don't know what I'm going to do with this horse. He can't. And you put him on synthetic, and
Right.
they love it. And you can sit there and say, oh, it's maybe easier at Woodbine. I've taken horses that, say I've had maidens run second or third at Saratoga, and you take them up and you'll say, well, they're going to kick butt at Woodbine. Doesn't work that way.
Right.
It does not work that way. That's not the way it works. So, Yeah, you're right, John. It just opens up another avenue. Look, if you have a horse this winter in New York, of course, not everybody has the luxury like we do of having different divisions to be able to move them around. But there may be there may be a couple. I would say to you this, and this is a large number that I'm talking about. I would say the horses that I find that don't like synthetic would be less than 5%.
Right. Interesting.
And I would say
Right.
that don't like dirt, probably 75%.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever watched, if you watch a dirt race, you watch a race, there may be 30 lengths between the winner and the last horse. You don't see that separation so much in synthetic.
Yeah. I mean, that part of it is definitely closer, more akin to turf racing.
Yeah, like turf racing. Right, Joe.
Yeah. Last question from me. We haven't spoken since that whole Louisiana Racing Commission kerfuffle, and that was like we were one of the first people I thought of when that whole thing went down, where the Louisiana Racing Commission tried to make the rules less safe and more right for cheating trainers. It's the facts. Like, they didn't explicitly say that, but that would have been the effect of what they were doing. And then there was a huge outcry from within the industry that said, "No, you're not going to do this because it's gonna affect your product. Like, horses are not going to want to ship in and ship out of there." What was your takeaway from that? From first, the Louisiana Racing Commission taking it upon themselves to do that, and then secondly, the way the industry pushed back in unison.
I was in shock when I heard it. I mean, I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
I mean, we've come so far in the last few years. Just look at our safety records now, and to sit there and to go back and to say more medication is better. I was astonished by that. I was very proud of our industry, though. They pushed back and they said, no, this is not going to happen. And you saw guys, men and women, standing up and talk and saying things that don't usually say much. And so they all came together and said, no, that's not going to happen. Look, obviously, I'm involved with HISA. I've been involved with it. I'm no longer on the advisory committee, but I don't know. Have there been bumps in the road? Absolutely. Are there things we can still fix? Absolutely. Has it made a change in our industry? Absolutely. Absolutely. You can just look at trainers' records that we were concerned were cheating or not playing fair, and they've went way down. And you've seen the horsemen. I think now of anything, it's now about horsemanship. It's not about drugs and all that. It's more now. You got to change the way you train. Where they're asking us to do things. It used to be, you had a little of this, a little of that. You could medicate them and get by. It doesn't work that way anymore. Doesn't work that way. And I think personally that it's more horsemanship. Yeah. And for me, that's good.
That's good. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mark, this is our fifth year. We're entering our fifth year of working together. And if I can tell the audience a little secret about you, it's that I never see you happier than the month of September. And the month of September is usually when all these babies are starting to develop and you're a race or two away from Breeders' Cup, and you're winning races all over the place on horses that you've been working on all year are starting to blossom and develop. But the most fun play, or the happiest place I've ever seen you, is at the September yearling sale. I like to think it's because you're eating gummy bears, because that's your favorite snack, but it's also because you're on the hunt, and you're on the hunt for next year's 2-year-olds. Explain to the audience why that's your happy place.
Because I love that, John. I've done it. It's the recruiting. Richard Migulori recently, he said to me, I did an interview. He goes, "Mark can go to a little league game and find a pro." And he goes, and I appreciate that, and I'm very proud of that, and I love it. it's funny, John and Joe, I think we've won the Natoma like 9 times or 8 times, and maybe the summer 5 times. I've never been to one of them. And it's because that is the week, that's our busiest week in September. And people will say to me, I can't believe you're not there. I said, that book's been written. I said, the only thing now is pictures. I said, I'm trying to write the next chapter, because if I don't do that, if we don't go out and buy those young horses, it's recruiting. It would be like a baseball team or a football team or a hockey team not getting to bring in new blood for a couple of years. I have a very big owner that a few years ago said, I'm not going to buy any yearlings. And I said, okay, I don't. And John will tell you, I'm not a pushy kind of guy. You tell me, I'm like, okay, I'm not. And I said, okay. So 2 years ago, the same owner said to me, our horses are awful. We're having an awful year. And I said, yeah, I know. Yep. Why? I said, because we didn't buy any yearlings.
Right.
You got to buy yearlings. And then the key to it is, you develop them, and the ones that aren't the stars, you let someone else get them and go. And then you keep what is it? One man's trash is another man's treasure. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think the key is in anything, when somebody comes to me and says, hey, I want to do this, I want to train, I want to buy horses, I say, what is your goal?
Right.
You got to tell me what your goal is. If your goal is to reach the top, to run in the Breeders' Cups, the Derbies, those Oaks, then we got to do it one way. If all you want to do is have fun and win races, we can do it another way. But we go out, John, when we go out, we look for developing horses and horses that that can be added to a broodmare band or that. So, yes, John, there is no doubt that September is my favorite month of the year. Actually, the summer is. I was looking for July and August and September for us, and November are big months. That's when we shine most of the time.
Yep. So would you recommend to somebody they get married September 14th? Would that be a bad idea? Would that just ruin?
They could. I just won't be there.
You just won't be there.
That's all right, Mark. John will be your proxy.
Get married on September 14th.
Joe is getting married.
Oh, there you go.
I have to leave you. I have to leave you for that weekend in September.
Seriously?
Yeah. I know we're announcing it for the first time on. Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there for the first week.
Joe, how did you do that?
Because I love Joe so much. Joe asked me to say a few remarks at his wedding, so
okay.
I have to go.
Did I really?
Well, that's what I'm imagining.
You just volunteered to do that.
That's what I'm imagining. But Mark, for us,
I suggest everybody does things in December.
Yes,
that's when
Yes, I know
exactly.
I know
exactly.
You can't. You got to wait. Give me at least a week after the Breeders' Cup.
Right. Yep. Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, I will honestly say that September is my favorite time also because of the yearling sales, but also because I get to communicate a lot more with Tina, and that's more fun than dealing with you on a regular basis. But the last question is, she's been instrumental in your success. I'll give you a chance to tell everybody why that is.
Oh, I tell everybody, I'm in 2 Hall of Fames. I'd be in none without her. She's turned out, she's a pretty good horse person too.
Yeah.
She goes to sales. She's very active in it. She keeps us focused, both of us, doing, and she
keeps us from fighting with each other too, which is nice.
She's amazing. And it's funny because, when I was inducted into the Hall of Fame, I said something about she's my, I married way up or something.
Yeah, outsticked your coverage.
Yeah, and some guy he goes, I really enjoyed I don't know the guy, but he said, really enjoyed your speech. And he goes, man, you were right. You married way up. I said, okay, well, thank you.
I think hopefully I'm doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
Mark,
I'm sure you are.
Couldn't agree more. Mark,
I don't
thanks
even
so
know
much
her,
for
but I'm guessing. I'm betting yes.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yes. How quickly we turned.
Right, exactly. Well, Mark, thanks so much for the time and the insight as always. Keep that train rolling all through Saratoga and Woodbine. It's always great to see you in the winner's circle.
Thanks for having me.
Rail Talk is sponsored by TaylorMade. TaylorMade wants to remind you that the deadline for the November breeding stock sales is right around the corner, August 1st. It's a little over 8 days away as we're recording this. And as you know, with TaylorMade, your family, they've been doing this for almost 50 years. They always put customers first as a consignor. They optimize the path to success at the breeding stock, yearling, horses of racing age sales. We just talked about the horses of racing age sales, the advent and the growing popularity of those sales. TaylorMade has obviously been at the forefront from a consignor standpoint, and there's a reason they're the leading yearling consignor pretty much every single year, every single sale. They have a big consignment coming up at the Basic Select sale. They've got a bunch of horses, a bunch of really nice horses in Book One coming up at Keeneland September. So, I mean, John can attest to this, that there's nobody else who's going to get the best result for your horse in this industry like TaylorMade, because they treat every single horse and every single client as if they're the most important horse or the most important client in their consignment. We can't wait to see Mark and Duncan and all the boys up at Saratoga. You know, they do a great job getting prepared for all these sales. And yeah, there's just simply nobody else in the business that you should send your horse to, you know, if you want to realize the best result at one of the top sales. They are the standard in this business, and you can learn more about them at TaylorMadeFarm.com. So if you remember last week, we introduced yet another contest. That's if there's two things that Rail Talk does well, it's piss people off and create contests.
In that order.
To fill airtime. So we've done both of those, I think, pretty well through 53-ish episodes. So last week our contest was Len Green, the Green Group DJ Stable patriarch. My second dad is having he's being honored at the Racetrack Chaplaincy Brunch in mid-August. John, what's the date again?
It's Wednesday the
14th.
Wednesday
14th. Thank you, Patty. All right. Thank you, producer / fact checker Patty Wolf. So Wednesday, August 14th. It's a great event. They do one every year. It's at the Saratoga National Golf Course. It's like brunch hours, so then you can hop over to the track afterwards. And Len is being honored this year. So John and I are going to be there. We'll be there at his table, and we had a couple extra seats available. So we asked the audience and we asked our fans last week to write to us and tell us what they would talk about with John and I, or with me and John. I think me and John. That's the correct one. Fact checker, right?
Yeah, with John and me. John? That's correct.
Yeah.
John and me. Okay. Thank you. So we open it up to our fan base to tell us what they would talk about with us to win seats, those coveted seats at the man of the hours table at the Saratoga Racetrack Chaplaincy Brunch. So we do have a handful of winners here, and one of them I know very well, and you might know very well, is my dad, Russell Bianca. So Russ wrote in saying that he would talk about my childhood misadventures. And the question is, do we have enough time? It's only like a 2-hour event. And part of it is going to have to be honoring Len.
Right.
That we might not have enough time to get into all of that. I've lived a very misadventurous life.
Right. I think Russ is going to just stick with the ones that you were sober. Your sober misadventures, and that'll
that cuts it way down. Yeah. that'll really clean things up. So Russ is one of our winners. Love to see you up there, Pops. But if you can't make it, I'm sure I'll see you at the wedding. Right? I hope so.
Maybe.
He
might be at the September sale with Mark Casse. You never know.
We'll send him up for the Natalma, and John, you can take his place as my best man. So another winner is our good friend and Rail Talk correspondent, Skip Anderson, of course, Baba Acres on Twitter. He's got some really good questions. After NYRA announcing winter racing on Tapeta, how will that affect yearling sales in the fall? Will certain pedigrees of types of horses become more in demand? Will buyers shop differently? Will sellers market differently? Skip is very, very in tune to the sales, so I think those are all great questions, especially right around the Basic sales. So Skip is another winner. Hope to see you there, buddy. Chris Moore Chris Moore is one of our buddies who's very, very supportive of the show. Ran into Chris at Ocala at the OBS March or April sale. Great dude. He's LEMB Stables on Twitter. I mean, he wants to talk about insurance. That's his thing.
Right.
That's his world, the way that racing is and bullshit is our world.
Yeah, no, I mean, and he's phenomenal as far as the insurance and the equine insurance, and also has a property and casualty background, which is more exciting than it sounds, actually. But Chris is a really good dude, and he actually just got married. So, Joe, he can actually talk a little bit about, wedding jitters and what to do and what to expect and everything. I thought it was also interesting. We didn't talk about it, but he also asked about Patty's dating profile and wanted to know where jockeys could find that, whether it's Tinder or Bumble or Grindr, which I'd never heard of before. But anyway, that was something else that Chris wanted to know about as well, as Patty's dating profile.
False.
The whole world wants to know about that. Like she can deflect all she wants. The whole world has asked me, what's Patty's deal? Like, is she available? Is she looking? Like, it's just that's the question I get the most when I'm out and about at the racetrack.
Is she sane?
Yeah, well, how much time do you have?
Exactly.
We'll talk about it. And then the last one is our buddy Trey Thurston. He's Dr. Rook 13 on Twitter, another great supporter of the show. He wants to talk about veterinary medicine, how it relates to soundness and breeding decisions, getting into the game on the owner's side, which is obviously something that I've learned about with my time at West Point, always happy to talk about, and the possibility of the unification of multiple organizations to a national one. That's another thing that we bang on about on this show. So shout out to Trey. Hope to see you there. So congratulations to all our winners. Should be a great day honoring a terrific champion of the sport. And of course, John and I will be there too. And we will try not to steal the show too much from the big man. All right, so that's going to do it for episode 53 of Rail Talk. Thank you to Mark Casse for stopping by and chatting with us. Thank you to Jon Green. Thank you to our producer, Patty Wolf. Our associate producers, Julia Agresta, Nathan Wilkinson, and Brad Gerke. Shout out to y'all, the viewers and the listeners. You keep us going, as do the sponsors, Facing Tippet, Green Group, and TaylorMade. We'll see you back here next week on Rail Talk.